Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we finally have from Touché Amoré, Spiral in a Straight Line. I feel like I got into Touché Amoré at the wrong time, the chaotic months of fall 2020, with a sonic detour on Lament picking up pedal steel to augment their post-hardcore. Maybe it just got overshadowed by other projects in 2020 that stuck that visceral landing more effectively, but I rarely return to that album as much as I might have wanted. So in another busy fall, 4 years later, I wanted to give them another proper shot, and you know what, following off of the arc of Lament, Touché Amoré are looking to explore the difficult consequences that come with healing and then continuing to move forward, especially given as that can be painfully difficult in the public eye when you're trying to present yourself as having it all together when you just don't. When you're in a downward spiral but need to keep walking that straight and narrow, and then overcompensating to fill up the damage, and then trying to break out of bad habits along the way. And what I really like is that on the back half of this album, Touché Amoré also deliver a very hard acknowledgement. Sometimes along that personal, internal journey, you're gonna wind up losing people. Not due to their passing, but because your lives wind up on diverging paths. And if you've been close for so long, the newfound loneliness of losing them, it becomes a factor of that healing, and moving on is very difficult to grapple with. You gotta figure out who you are away from those people. And it's not even because they're still in a bad place and you've left them behind, or maybe that they remind you of past demons. Sometimes you're just going in a very different direction, and maybe the foundations of your relationship was a little bit shaky to begin with. And you know what? I like the maturity to acknowledge no ill will towards them as they move on. Might be goodbye for now, and maybe the plea for a little bit of time that maybe they can reunite in the end, maybe come back all better. So yeah, the writing is doing some real heavy lifting. I like a lot of this. And it takes us to the execution, which despite being a return to form, feels a bit shakier, even if I can praise them for keeping a lot of the immediacy of the hooks from Lament. I've been on record saying how Jeremy Bolm's vocals sounding so shredded can be a bit of a mixed blessing if he's trying to modulate, but they certainly are visceral, and as the band tries to balance out some cavernous, desaturated indie rock textures on songs like Force of Habit, or even pop-punk adjacent chord progressions on Hal Ashby, or like the careening Finalist, he keeps the melodic hardcore roots very firmly planted. I don't think there's anything as sonically bold as the pedal steel on Lament, but I'll admit I was on board for the heavier darkness of Disasters and Altitude, or the jangling screamo of Mezzanine, or the cacophonous haunted roar of The Glue, probably one of my favorite hooks here, or when they pull on Lou Barlow of Sebadoh to interpolate Brand New Love onto Subversion, Brand New Love, for the closest thing this album has to a ballad, and maybe only for the first half. And yet, even then, it's exasperating. I'm not sure why more of this album is not sticking for me. It's a very easy listen if you like these textures, a return to some familiar sounds for Touché Amoré, with only some dabblings in indie rock because, well, they're in post-hardcore/emo, and they're getting older and more mature. But despite trying to be more hook-driven, I'm not hearing the more unique melodic ideas that might complement that. Maybe it's the abbreviated track length. This album is just over a half hour and feels like it runs a lot faster. But even then, it feels like some of these songs, especially in the midsection, are struggling to differentiate themselves in their lead melodies. Or you know what, maybe it's the same conundrum that faced both Spanish love songs and the Wonder Years when they brought in similar indie rock textures and some of the increasingly colorless production tones. They're not quite as captivating. But in both of those cases, their frontmen, they actually leaned in more on the singing, and there was that focus on melodic hooks, especially in the guitars or synths, to try to make up the difference. I mean, No Joy pulled it off last year, and I stand by Sister Cities making it work, even if the Wonder Years went right back to the pop punk as the fans revolted. Whereas with Touché Amoré, they've evolved in the content, but then they've leaned on the textured reverb and bringing in Julian Baker again for a closing track assist that just does not feel as impactful for me. Certainly not matching Boehm's persistent screaming that are in odd contrast to some of that lyrical evolution. So ironically, it leaves Spiral in a Straight Line kind of caught caught between two worlds, almost intentionally so. I really like the thematic arc. It is visceral to a fault. It's got plenty of strong moments. It makes sense they went in this way, but Lament took more risks, and there's nothing here that beats how heartrending Stage 4 was. So I'm left with a post-hardcore project I really like and can recommend, even dabbling in indie rock, but I don't love it because it feels caught between those worlds and isn't really getting the best of either. It's absolutely worth hearing. I am going to recommend it, but I also get the frustrating feeling this might fade faster than I would like. It's kind of a shame, all I will say. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yeah, I know for some folks this is going to be more negative. I really wanted to love this. It's just not sticking the way I was hoping. There are moments I think are legit great. I think there are good ideas, and when the content gets there, I'm more likely to overpraise an album than underpraise it, but yeah, there's something with this one. It's not fully clicking. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be really curious to see where folks are falling on it, especially longer-time Touché Amoré fans. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get involved and help and support the channel, well, a link to my Patreon is right over there, where you get options to edit my schedule, join my Discord, find ways to help support the channel beyond my merch as well. YouTube memberships, if you want to keep it all on the same platform. The highest tiers offer the same benefits as Patreon. Again, feel no obligation, tough times out there, but the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.